This video is brought to you by patreon.com/worsttake. Get access to exclusive live streams and Discord servers, on-screen shoutouts, and early access to some videos when you join now. Help make sure that we can continue to make content like this by supporting the Patreon. Links are in the description down below.
Day one of Brown's joint practice with the Minnesota Vikings has ended, and I'm here to try to recap and let you know what's going on down there in Berea during these joint practices. Now, there's a couple things to note. There's not going to be any video. They don't allow video of the team drills. They only allow video of the individual drills. When I seen from the video of the individual drills from guys like Fred Greetham, who's a good follow, by the way, if you want to see some of the videos come out of camp. But Fred Greetham had some videos out. And, you know, I think the Browns wide receivers are doing a good job on one-on-ones. It's hard to really get excited for me about one-on-one drills because it's just not a good simulation of what getting open on an actual play is. Like, you're never going to be one-on-one. And even if you are one-on-one, there's no help or no other defenders on the field. It's just so much more easy to get open on a one-on-one. It's just an entertaining thing to watch. It's not necessarily something that gives me an indicator on how a corner is playing or how a wide receiver will play in the structure of an offense or a defense. So it's hard for me to draw much from that. But there's no video, so we have to kind of rely on some of the reports from the Minnesota people and the Cleveland people that are there. Also, another thing to note, Denzel Ward was announced on concussion protocol. And if it feels like deja vu, it's because Denzel Ward's been on concussion protocol a lot. Now, this doesn't necessarily mean that he has a concussion. He did get it from a hit in practice on Monday. This doesn't necessarily mean he has a concussion. It just means that they're putting him in the protocol. It is concerning because we have said the word Denzel Ward concussion protocol 4 more times than I can count. And that is concerning, right? A consistent amount of concussions are a thing that can affect not just his quality of life going forward as a human being, but also could be something that stops him from playing football entirely. We have seen Denzel Ward in the concussion protocol 2 times in 2018, and I believe in 2022 he was in concussion protocol again, and I believe last year he was in concussion protocol. He's been in concussion protocol a lot. A lot. Now, that doesn't mean every time he was in concussion protocol, he had a concussion. But it does mean that he's been in concussion protocol a lot. And that's concerning. I really hope that I'm just overreacting. But Denzel Ward being in concussion protocol again, scary. And it might just be, since he does have a history of concussions, that anytime he takes a hit to the head, they're going to put him in concussion protocol. So it might seem like he's in concussion protocol more and more often, but that's because they're just being more and more cautious with him. I don't know the definitive answer to that. I'm just offering out some possible solutions, well, not solutions, some possible reasons why he's been in concussion protocol a ton. But this is not something we can continue to ignore with Denzel Ward. He's been in concussion protocol a lot. It is a concern. And it's a concern not just for the health of this defense, but just for the health overall of Denzel Ward. I'm sure, you know, even after his playing days, we would love to see Denzel Ward be able to enjoy the fruits of his labor and, you know, enjoy being a Cleveland Browns legend in the city that he grew up in and get everything that he deserves from that. And you just don't want these concussion protocols or him being in concussion protocol, getting concussions, to be something that, you know, ends much darker than what we would want. So I'm just hoping the best for Denzel Ward there. Now let's talk about joint practice. Now, when it comes to joint practice, what is it that you want to look for in this specific situation going up against the Minnesota Vikings? I have 3 things that I'm looking for in this joint practice with the Minnesota Vikings. One, you want to look at who the Vikings' best players are and who their best individual performers are. They have Justin Jefferson, which means that Justin Jefferson can be a good measuring stick for where some of these guys are at in the secondary. So you want to see how you perform against Justin Jefferson. Are you able to shut him down? Does he dominate you? Are these corners able to be where they need to be? Martin Emerson versus Justin Jefferson is going to be what it is because Denzel Ward's in concussion protocol. You're going to see some Greg Newsome on Martin Emerson, maybe even some Cam Mitchell on Justin Jefferson. So you want to see how that works out. Another area that you want to look for is defensive line. You want to see this defensive line get pressured. I was very vocal at the end of the preseason game last week that I was not happy with the performance of the Browns defensive line. Now, I don't know how they feel about that internally, but I imagine they weren't thrilled. You want to see this defensive line look like the Browns defensive line. You want to see them reset that line of scrimmage. You want to see them get pressure. You want to see them do all the things that the Cleveland Browns defensive line that we're used to. Even if the starters aren't out there. I know Miles wasn't out there in the preseason game. It shouldn't matter. You're the Browns defensive line. You were able to get pressure during the preseason consistently last year. You should be able to get pressure consistently this year. So that is where I'm at with that. Then you want to see Deshaun Watson in this offense. It's a new offense. You're going to have growing pains, no matter how familiar the offense is for one individual. Still got everybody else learning the new offense. You want to see Watson make some plays against some live competition. You want to see Watson handle the blitz against some live competition. You want to see Watson look a little bit like Deshaun Watson. That said, let's talk about what it seems like happened in that joint practice. This tweet from Jay Coop says that the Browns defense has been making their voices heard today. The matchup between Martin Emerson and Justin Jefferson has been the highlight from my count. They've been just about even in the matchup. So there's that. There was a play where it seems like Justin Jefferson did score on Martin Emerson, but it's debated whether it was a sack or not. So that's out there too. So that's the first thing we talked about, right? How do these guys hold up against the premier player that they have in Minnesota in Justin Jefferson? That's a really good thing to see. Another thing that seems to have happened is that the Browns defense straight up dominated in this joint practice, or was very dominant in this joint practice. Multiple reports about Myles Garrett just looking like the best football player God's ever created, running around there on defense. Apparently, according to the Cleveland Browns defense, Sam Darnold went 1 for 12, and the pressure was consistent. That's what you want to hear, right? You need this Browns defense to dominate on the defensive line. That allows them to do so much of what they do well, is them being dominant on the defensive line. Am I surprised that Myles Garrett looks great? No. I'm not surprised that Myles Garrett looks great. I expect Myles Garrett to continue to get better over the next couple of years because I don't think he's reached his peak yet. Like, I still think Myles Garrett has so much more potential to grab. So I'm not surprised that he looks great versus the Minnesota Vikings, who don't really have somebody that's even of Myles Garrett's caliber to be able to slow him down, especially in a practice situation where you're not going to roll a ton of protection over for Myles Garrett. Like, I could see Myles Garrett easily dominating in a situation like that. So love to see that. That was one of the things that I was talking about. So you get 2 of them, right? The defensive line got pressure. Martin Emerson looks good against Justin Jefferson. They were going at it back and forth. And that's really good because Martin Emerson ain't even our best corner. Our best corner is in concussion protocol, as we talked about earlier. So that is great. Love it. Absolutely love it. That encourages me, that it should encourage you, all of those things. All right, let's look at some of the other stuff when it comes to the offense. Now, I heard some good reports about how Jerry Jeudy looked in camp today. I heard some good reports about how Cedric Tillman looked in camp too. So it was nice to see that translate into the joint practice. I hope that we eventually get to see an extensive look of Jerry Jeudy in the preseason, maybe this week. I doubt it, but definitely in that third preseason game. And I definitely want to see Elijah Moore and Cedric Tillman more in there. So nice to hear some good things about that. Also nice to hear Deshaun Watson was able to get the ball down the field, make some big chunk plays. There was also reports of chunk plays to David Njoku in there. It seems like the offense started slow, started sloppy. The reports early were that the Browns were having some false starts. We're letting a lot of pressure through. We're getting blitzed a ton at the beginning. You know how Brian Flores gets down with those blitz packages. So it seems like that's something that bothered the Browns offensive line. Remember, one of the issues the Browns offensive line had last year was this inability to pass off and adjust. And one of the things I saw or heard that made me more encouraged is that it seems like the Browns got blitz early in this joint practice. It threw them off, but then they adjusted and played much better after that. Very good to see. Very excited to see. Another note is that James Hudson was splitting reps with Hakeem Adeniji. I talked about this in my winners and losers video. I thought Hakeem Adeniji looked better than both of the other tackle options that they had there in that game. And I think the coaching staff agrees with that. So it's going to be Hakeem Adeniji that moves up. I'm pretty sure they're going to try out everybody at that backup left tackle spot before Jet Wills gets back. So we're going to see a full rotation, and I think that's going to play itself out too in the preseason as well. So they'll figure something out there. But it was nice to hear that they were able to adjust and fix those things as the practice went on. So a little bit of sloppiness, right? Some false starts, some procedural penalties. Browns still look like they're installing a new offense at times. And to be honest with you, I'm going to give that like a week or two before I start to really freak out about that, because it's expected. This is the first 2 times that they've really played football. For the first team, this is the first time that they've truly played some football against some real competition, like somebody who's not on their team as well. This is the first time they've done that in a while. So that's going to get stress tests. It should break and you should fix it. And that's all I need to hear, right? I'm not going to be too concerned if I hear something bad happen out of camp. You just want to hear that it got fixed eventually, right? And by the end of the week, I expect the offense to really shake off a lot of the sloppiness that they probably had in this one and look a little bit cleaner going into that third preseason game. And I think that's why the Browns wait until the third preseason game to put out starters, because they want to make sure that all of that jank is out the system before they put their valuable players out there. So not too concerned about the sloppiness, especially since it seems like they cleaned up some of that stuff by the end. Seems like Watson and company picked up steam late in practice and got better from what that early sloppy start was. No interceptions. You love to hear it. And the run game not being great. This was a consistent report from a lot of people down there. That's a bit of a concern for me, right? Like, I didn't expect the run game to be amazing, but I expected to. I'm a little underwhelmed, I'll say, with the run game as we go right now. I have not seen Deontay Foreman yet, so hopefully we get to see Deontay Foreman in the preseason game. Maybe that'll alleviate some concerns, but it doesn't seem like he's tearing it up in camp. Jerome Ford, I think he is in a tough spot because he's good in situations, but he's continued to be forced to be something he's not. He's not a feature back. If he has to be used as a feature back, I don't really love that. I'm not a big fan of Pierre Strong, and I don't want this to come down to like relying on like an Aiden Robbins or something crazy like that. Like, that would be worst case scenario, because you want it to be Jerome Ford and Deontay Foreman that can hold it down, because it's your best bet of having a normal run game while Nick Chubb is out. So it's not great what we're hearing from the run game, but overall, I'm encouraged by what I've heard from the defense. I'm encouraged by what I've heard from the offense to a point. The offensive line stuff, I'm concerned about the offensive line holding up. DeJuan Jones apparently didn't have that great of a practice either. We're going to see. Like, we just got to wait and see till this offensive line is healthy to really give a judgment on how they are. Right now, we're judging them with James Hudson and Hakeem Adeniji playing, and I don't think that's a great way to judge them. But, yeah, we're going to have to wait and see with the offensive line if this is actually going to be something that we should be really concerned about, and continue to want to see those guys in the preseason. But that's it. Let me know what you think in the comment section down below. Y'all have a great day. Have an even better night. Peace.